Could I ask you to stand, please? I'd like to ask Councillor Thompson to lead us in prayer.
Could you repeat the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you. Members of Council, the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the Council minutes of December 1st, 2008. Moved by Councillor Fisher, seconded by Councillor Carrio. Any comments or questions? Having seen none? Correct? Councillor Wing?
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk?
Through the chair, there was a change to page 2, which is in your handout, so your approval would be based on the changes as outlined in page 2 as well.
So we'll incorporate that as well. Yes, Councillor?
Thank you. I'm sorry, and in moving the minutes at the last council meeting, I inadvertently missed declaring a conflict in regards to the arcade on Clifton Hill. I had called the clerk, and I'd like that reported in also.
You wanted to declare a conflict?
I had a conflict on a matter in regards to an arcade on Clifton Hill. I talked to Dean, so he knows what I'm talking about.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I don't have the report number in front of me.
Make note of it here. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Having seen none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. This time I'm going to ask for any disclosures of a pecuniary interest by members of council. Councillor Maves.
Yes, under reports, under insurance, F 2008-49. That's my source of income.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wing.
Yes, from Corporate Services, report PD 2008-115. 2 reasons. My spouse has a contractual relationship with an objector. I think he still owed some money. And also, I expect to be bringing a zoning application in the relatively near future. So this will directly affect me financially.
Okay. Councillor Iononi?
I had the same conflict as I have a contractual relationship also.
On which item?
On the last, the same item she declared a conflict on, 2008.
Okay.
The administration fees.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes, the same conflict, PD 2008-115, conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further? Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Members of council, and I do appreciate the public being here this evening, and I certainly welcome the deputations. We have some very special guests tonight. First of all, I'd like to take an opportunity to welcome up and invite to the podium Mr. Bob Gale, Gale's Gas Bars, and Denise Burke, the president of Niagara Ice Dogs, who are here tonight for a very special deputation promoting an event that's going to take place on March 1st, 2009. They're joined with 2 current Ice Dog players, both Alex Friesen and Johnson Andrews, who were former products of the Niagara Falls Minor Hockey League. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I will turn the podium over to you.
Thanks, Mayor and members of council. About 6 months ago, I was talking to Dave Martineau, the publisher of the Niagara Falls Review, and we were talking about hockey. He's from Kirkland Lake. You know I'm from Niagara Falls, and we were talking about the 60s. Some of you can remember the 60s, but all of us, those days, the place. I didn't mean that way, but the days of the 60s with the Flyers games on Friday night, that was the place to be at the Niagara Falls Memorial Arena. And you've honored me by naming the new complex, the Gale Center, and so we started talking about all the things that happened in those games, and the Toronto Maple Leafs seemed so far away at that time. We got into conversations of where did the smoke go when everybody seemed to be smoking in the arena at the time. And you remember when the glass wasn't on the side of the ice, how come the fans didn't lose their teeth during this, and the mesh at the end. And we started talking about where did the players go? The Rick Lees, the Derek Sandersons of those days, the Brad Mays from the Thunder, the Keith Primo, where were they all at? And we realized that Niagara Falls Memorial Arena will no longer have any more OHL games at. At that time it was OHA Junior A, but now it's OHL. So we talked about having one final game. And with the assistance of, we immediately went over to Marcel Dion's retail store on Montrose Road, and we started talking about how hard would this be able to do. And we realized that we had to have the assistance of the Burks, the OHL, people like that to get in bed with us and make this happen. So we tried one more game on this, and the date for this game is going to be March 1st next year at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. thank you to Denise Burke and Bill Burke, the owners of the Niagara Ice Dogs, because they've allowed us to have one, and so has the OHL. It's between the Ottawa 67s, whose coach Brian Kilray was coaching against us in the 60s. And on that day, we'll have some festivities, but also the night before, we're going to have a dinner at the Crown Plaza, which is the old Brock by the Rainbow Bridge, and Derek Sanderson has agreed to be there, as well as other items happening there. Before I go any farther, I'd like to introduce you to Denise Burke. As I mentioned, her and Bill own the team. The reason this team's doing so well in the Niagara region is they're so community-oriented, and they've helped a lot of schools and that around. So I'd like her to take the podium now, and then I'll come back to you.
Well, I'll be very brief. I just wanted to thank Council and the City of Niagara Falls and obviously Bob Gale for being such huge supporters. The Niagara Ice Dogs, as you know, is a regional team, so every bit as much a team for Niagara Falls as it is for the other region or other parts of the region. We brought two gentlemen with us today, two of our star players, and both actually live in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and both have had their minor hockey through Niagara Falls, and Alex Friesen. Actually, it's funny because when we bought the team last year, these were two of the first 4 draft picks that we ever had as owners, so we're very proud of these guys. Alex actually, he was named the academic high school. He won the academic high school award out of the entire OHL last year, so we're very proud of Alex. And Johnson has quite a legacy in Niagara Falls and in hockey with his family. His dad played for the Niagara Falls Flyers, and his grandfather played for the St. Catharines Teepees. So very proud of both these fellas, and we're very much looking forward to being part of the one last game in the Memorial Arena, and we certainly hope that it raises lots of money for your new arena. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Now, all the proceeds from this event are going to charity. The main beneficiary of it will be the Gale Center. Our goal is $100,000 for that. Also, Project Share and the GNGH Foundation will raise some monies as a result of this in 50-50 type draws and things like this. I'm sure we'll meet our goal of $100,000. If you get my drift on it, we will meet our goal of $100,000 on this. And some of the details on it, like I say, we're doing this in conjunction with the Niagara Falls Review and my company. We thank Marcel Dion and the Burks for allowing this to happen because we had to pull some strings with the OHA to allow it. The tickets for the game will go on sale on Thursday this week, which is Thursday this week, trust me on this.
18th.
And that's December 18th. They haven't been printed yet, but we wanted to get them on sale before Christmas so that if anybody wanted them, they'd be given a voucher and they could give it to somebody for Christmas or whatever the case may be. The seating in the arena is around 3,000 and that, so there's not a lot of seats for sale on this. But to get your tickets, you go to the Niagara Falls Review beginning Thursday, and they're $20 each. Or the Ice Dog office in St. Catharines to get them, and they'll come available then. Right now, you put on a priority list, and then you'll get the tickets. The dinner tables, and that for the night of February 28th at 7 p.m., the dinner at the Crown Plaza, you would go through Dave Martineau at the Niagara Falls Review at 358-5711, extension 1111, and that. And I'm sure they'll play this back again, but trust me, call the Niagara Falls Review, and he's arranging the dinner tables on this. We have room for 500. We plan on having a lot of old players. The Niagara Falls Review is having a contest that'll be put in the paper on picking the best team of all the players over the years. So we think that'll cause some conversation as a result on this. One thing that I would hope from the councilors here on this is that you would get involved in this. A lot of you have memories from those years of be it the Thunder or be it the Flyers and that, and the conversations when you go to the coffee shop and they talk about whether a Rick Lee was better than a whoever and things like this is great from our years. Ted, we remember when we were young and going to this, and it was the place to be. Sure. So this is helping the community. We hope it'll be a go on this, and we appreciate your support on this. I hope that you city councils will buy up the tickets as well. And Ted, on behalf of it, I also have a poster here that the Niagara Falls Review had. I don't know where to show it, but it's been sent around. It's got pictures of, I defy you to name the 3 people on this. I know you all know Derek Sanderson in the center. If you can do that, you're a star. Don't look at the back. Okay, you got 2. Don Marcotte, Derek Sanderson. Get the other one, and I'll be so impressed.
Our trivia expert here. But he was a young boy.
And I won't take your time, but...
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you the name of the third. Clem Tremblay.
Wow.
Good luck. But again, these are people that people all know from around here that'll bring back memories and that. So I'd appreciate you get on the bandwagon on this, and some of you, Vince, you know, we were all raised around there, Wayne, and that, your father being in the fire department, then I don't know how the fire marshal allowed the rules in those days for those games, because we had over 4,000.
Right.
We all remember the Kitchener Rangers game when it was 7th game in the 60s, and we were lined up around the block. So thank you for having us here. I really want to thank the Ice Dogs for allowing this to happen.
Bob, just before you go, we have some members of council who wish to say a few words, but I wanted to do a couple things. First, I wanted to acknowledge the efforts that you've extended on our behalf of the entire community with your involvement, your generosity. Members of council certainly do appreciate your generosity and your commitment to hockey in Niagara. Also, in general, I want to say to Denise and her husband, they've done an excellent job in promoting the Ice Dogs. We're very proud. The games I've attended have all been sellouts, and to the players, I'm sure you're very proud to represent Niagara. So thank you again for that commitment. You've come to Niagara and created a true commitment that you've had and a vision, and certainly it's a reality that we're seeing these games being fully attended. I do remember the days, and we stood around the rail. It says, you know, it's standing room only. I certainly want to purchase my tickets. I'll be glad to.
I have
be
two.
there.
The first two tickets are for you, Ted.
I'll take them for
if you can give them to somebody that.
No, I'll pay for my
enjoy.
tickets, but we can offer those. So thank you very much.
Dave Martineau is taking care of that, and there's different. Thank you, Ted. I'm sorry. There's different packages and that for them. So I appreciate it calling because I'll screw it up with the price.
And I'm certain that, as I say, members of council want to say some things, but I'm certain that you'll get our support to attend both the dinner to see what we believe are, in our generation, the icons of hockey when we were young people, but certainly nice to see them back again and to challenge the best team. But hopefully this will be a great event and a great sellout. I know I did have a chance to sit with you last year when you had this vision, and it's certainly going to, I think, be a very, very much of a success.
And the advertising will be in the review for the costs of that in the future. So
great, thank you. I have Councillor Diodati and Councillor Iononi.
Thank you, Worship. Again, Bob and Ms. Burke, Bob and Ms. Burke, and players, thank you very much for being here. Also, we're very appreciative of the fact that this team has become a regional team, not just City of St. Catharines team, which is clever marketing-wise, and as well, we all take ownership and can enjoy it as our own. You know, Bob, I was a little concerned when you said something about getting into bed with people. I'm not sure how you do your business, but whatever it takes to get the game on, we're really excited. And I would make a motion, Your Worship, that this council take a table for the fundraiser, and I'm sure individually we'll also
Only
buy
one?
tickets to the game.
You think there'll be enough?
Well, as many as we need to fit us on to. How many at a table, Bob?
10 at a table.
So maybe we might want to take 2 tables.
Yes, okay.
We're selling them in full tables right now.
Okay.
Because our goal is to make money for
We
this.
have a motion to take 2 tables by Councillor Diodati, seconded by Councillor Iononi.
Well, one for sure, Your Worship, and then we'll make sure that we have enough people.
We can purchase our spouses' tickets separately as well, too. So we have a motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Iononi. Any comments or discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Councillor Iononi.
Thank you. Mr. Gill, will the dinner be open for children too?
Ladies, children,
Okay,
you name it.
Because you've now told kids that there will be former hockey players there, so those parents who are going will have to listen to their children begging to go also. I know at my house.
Our goal is fun
bed.
and money for the new complex.
Okay.
And that. So
That's
as long as we can achieve them both. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it. And if it doesn't make money, I don't want to do it. So.
That's great. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much again, and we certainly appreciate your spirit and vitality, and thank you for your contribution. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Members of council, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Again, we have some very special guests attending with us tonight is our MPP, Mr. Kim Crater, who's here to make a check presentation along on behalf of our local Chinese community. A number of Chinese guests are with us tonight, and thank you so much for your commitment, ladies and gentlemen. Kim, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Worship, members of councils, and more importantly, friends. A pleasure to be here, and I know he's left, but it's a pleasure to speak after my good friend Bob Gale, one of the outstanding commissioners for the Parks Commission. I want to say that I am really excited to be here. Bit of a long wait, but I think it's well worth it. Listen to the debate. Things haven't changed. That's nice to see. Council's still active, still cares about the community. So I'm pleased to be here to speak on behalf of the Niagara Falls Chinese community this evening, which I happen to be a very proud member. For over 100 years, the Chinese community has carried on a century-old tradition in this city, and it's called the Qingming Festival. So I'm here with a number of individuals from the Niagara Falls Chinese community, so I want to take a minute to introduce them. Unfortunately, the president of the association Robert Wong isn't here, wasn't able to make it, but I'd like to introduce the Vice President, Lloyd Chong. Lloyd, thank you. The Treasurer, Michael Wang. Michael? Okay. He's counting the money. And some organizers who've taken the time to come out, Helen Liu, Henry Fong, Mary Chong, and Moon Chong, and two of my good friends from the Chinese community in St. Catharines, Gilbert Wong and Lily Wong. So for over 100 years, the Chinese community has carried on a century-old tradition in our city, and it's called the Qingming Festival, of which I've been attending for a number of years as an MPP, and before that as a city councilor. I know yourself, your worship, you've attended many times as well. On the first Sunday of June, Chinese families go to the Fairview Cemetery to clean and tidy monuments and graves, as well as plant flowers at the graves of ancestors. They do this because at the turn of the last century, a head tax was imposed on Chinese immigrants to this country. And as a result, many Chinese in search of an opportunity came to our country but had to leave behind their families for financial reasons. The local Chinese community at that time helped those individuals. Tragically, many died before they could be reunited with their families. So for the past 125 years, these souls have been buried at the Fairview Cemetery. The head tax, thank God, has been long departed. But for the last 100 years or so, many from my community travel annually to the Fairview Cemetery Qingming Festival. So this year, in recognition of Fairview's 125th anniversary, the Chinese community planted a memorial tree dedicated to those ancestors who have been buried in the Fairview Cemetery. They decided, though, the Chinese community decided not to stop there with the planting of just one tree. Instead, they've raised an additional $2,500 to further help mark the 125th anniversary of this lovely cemetery. So I'm extremely delighted, and I'm extremely proud to inform you that the Fairview Cemetery, under the great leadership of Cynthia Roberts, who's been exceptionally kind to this community, will be using this gift to create a Chinese tree memorial grove. This grove will acknowledge Fairview's 125th anniversary. As well, it will commemorate the importance to our community of the Chinese Qingming Festival. I believe a tree is a very important symbol of life. It has roots, it provides for shelter, it provides for substance. I also believe that this tree of groves grows, as it grows, it will symbolize not only lives that live, but the strength of our diverse community as we all grow together. The Chinese community wanted me to thank you for accepting this gift and using it as a symbolism in a way that honors our past. It's not unusual for me to be here at council to present checks, so I'm proud to present another one. And I would like to ask, if you're indulgent, Your Worship, to ask the Vice President Lloyd Chong and the Treasurer Michael Wang to come forward, and we have a check. You may have a little trouble understanding it is done in Chinese.
Okay.
But it's negotiable.
Could I ask Cynthia Roberts to come forward as well? City staff. Kim, come on. Last year, members of council, we did have the privilege of planting one tree, and this is going to add several more. So once again, on behalf of the members of council, Kim, thank you very much for representing the community. And Cynthia, if you just join us for a moment. We do appreciate your commitment to once again enhancing the cemetery. I know Cynthia's done a great job with her staff, and we're very appreciative. We get very positive comments about the condition of our cemetery, and this will certainly go a long way to adding towards the benefits that we have there. So thank you very much to the community. Thank you, Worship.
This will be the last check we receive from you this year.
No other council meetings. That's right. From zero. Thank you. Jim, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. and members of council, if you wouldn't mind, we do have a request for another matter to be moved forward. It's under reports, and we do have representatives from the Niagara Convention and Civic Center with us this evening. I'd like to ask that the report number 4, CAO's report BDD 208-200805, be moved forward to this point of the agenda. Kind of a motion by Councillor Diodati, seconded by Councillor Carrio. Any discussion or comment? Having seen none, all those in favor? And all those in favor again, please. Motion's carried. Thank you very much. This time I'd like to ask who's going to be addressing this matter, Mr. Clerk? Mr. Pelicetti from our Business Development Department is going to be addressing council on this very, very important and exciting announcement. Mr. Pelicetti?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council, the report before you details the process that's been taken by the evaluation team to get to the recommendations tonight. You're right, it's a very exciting evening tonight in terms of this project that many have been working on for many, many months and even years. And the report illustrates the process the evaluation team went through, starting back in June with an RFQ, a request for qualifications, and for a design-build team to design and construct the Niagara Convention and Civic Center. On the 15th, when that process closed, we had 9 submissions, and the evaluation team reviewed those submissions and shortlisted them to 4 proponents. And then we took the summer, spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, and put forward by the NCC from an operations perspective to develop the RFP document that would go to these 4 proponents. Critical step in the process, that's why it took us basically the entire summer, because you were developing the program, a program that you wanted to make sure was very competitive in the marketplace. And we were pleased in September to issue the RFP to those 4 proponents. They had a couple, 2.5 months to put their submissions together. December 1st, that process closed. We reviewed those submissions, and over the last couple of weeks, very intense effort made forward again by the development team. That team, by the way, was made up of city staff, NCC representation, MHPM, our project management, and our compliance team led by Zeidler Roberts, architects. And so before you tonight, after that evaluation, we are looking for council's authorization to move forward with our preferred proponent, which is Bondfield Construction Company Limited. And we also ask the council to allow staff to enter into negotiations to finalize the terms of the contract. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pelicetti. There may be questions. Councillor Ioannoni?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I'm just glad to see the report come forward, and I'd like to move the recommendations.
Okay, moved by Councillor Ioannoni, seconded by Councillor Diodati. Did you wish me to comment, Councillor Diodati?
I'm also glad. I think this is going to be a catalyst for a lot of good things to come in Niagara Falls. I'm glad to see we've got Ms. Painter in the audience.
Yes, we do.
Along with her staff. And I think this is something been a long time coming in this city, and I can't think of a better way to stimulate this city, especially the shoulder season in the coming years.
Certainly. And I'd like to say this is certainly going to change Niagara forever, and we'll make some comments with respect to the NCCC. I want to thank, if I could, the Board of Directors for their commitment and their vision. We've all worked long and hard together, and the former mayor as well. We've worked to make this a reality. We're pleased that we're at this stage. I'm excited to note that this will be, I think, changing our city forever, and will be very competitive in the convention business, and I think it'll certainly add those many, many opportunities of employment for many people, and the spin-off, I think, an investment will be unprecedented. So thank you again. Thank you to the management, again, the president, again, as you're here, and thank you very much for your hours of deliberation. To our staff and all those who've been involved, again, our sincere thanks on behalf of this council. We congratulate you as well. So. We do have a motion on the floor. Any questions or comments, members of council? Having seen none, all those in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Continue to do the budget thing during corporate services as listed here.
Okay. Members of council, the clerk's advised me we can continue on, and we'll get back to corporate services, I think, during our updates, our ratification. So at this point, let's continue. I do have some comments I'd like to make this evening with respect to Mayor's report. I'd like to begin our evening by offering our condolences to our city employee, Mr. William Crabb, on the recent loss of his his wife Irene, and to Paula Babel of our Clerk's Department on the passing of her uncle Robert Fabry. We offer our thoughts and sympathy again to your families during this difficult time. I'm pleased to highlight some recent notable events that have taken place in our community, and we were thrilled to hear of our selection, as you know, of Niagara Falls as a celebration community along the Olympic torch relay route that will be coming through en route to the Vancouver 2010 Olympics. As you know, we will host the torch and the celebrations in conjunction with the Torch Relay Organizing Committee on December 20th and 21st of 2009. And this evening, just before we started our council meeting, it gave me great pleasure to raise the Vancouver 2010 Torch Relay Community flag to mark our participation in the celebrations. At this time, I'd like to introduce a video that's been sent to us by VANOC, the Vancouver Torch Relay Organization Committee, that will welcome us aboard on this venture. So, Mr. Matson, could you roll the film, please, to the tape?
My name is John Furlong. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Vancouver 2010 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games.
Je suis Jim Richards, directeur de Relais La Flamme.
By now you've already found out that the torch relay is going to be coming your way in the latter part of 2009 or in the early part of 2010. We hope you're as excited as we are that we've been able to get the flame to your community. We've spent the last couple of years planning to share this extraordinary adventure with the people of Canada.
Le message principal à passer aux communautés, c'est de créer une célébration autour de votre communauté, autour de votre culture, de votre histoire, et de créer une célébration où tout le monde puisse participer. Ces célébrations ne sont pas simplement pour les citoyens d'une communauté ou une autre, mais pour tous les voisins autour et pour tous les Canadiens de participer.
Well, this torch relay is the longest inside of one country relay in Olympic history. And it's long because Canada is big, but it's also long because our goal was to make sure that we left no Canadian out, that we tried to find a way to the front door of every Canadian that we could.
Le relais La Flamme, ça fait ouvrir l'esprit à tout le monde, à tous les Canadiens, dans toutes les villes, les plus grandes, les plus petites, à les esprits et les idées olympiques.
Wherever you are in Canada, whatever community you are from, whatever school your children go to, wherever you are, this is as much yours as it is the people of Vancouver or the people of British Columbia. We're very proud of it. We're very proud that this is one of those rare occasions where the whole family of Canada can come together around an event that has so much power, that has so much influence, that has so much good in it. And we think that this will be one of those great adventures in our history. It's something that you will never forget. It'll be the time of your life.
Je trouve que cette chance de participer dans le relais La Flamme, c'est une opportunité unique. Unique dans nos vies, dans notre génération, de jouer un rôle si important dans l'histoire du Canada, dans l'histoire des Jeux olympiques, et une opportunité fantastique. Et j'encourage tout le monde de se mettre en avant et de participer un maximum.
And members of council, as you can see, the torch relay will be an exciting way to get residents in Niagara involved in the celebration. And residents will be able to apply to be torch bearers by going to the website icoke.ca, that's icoke.ca, or at rbc.com/carry the torch. Niagara Falls and the Niagara region will have a front row seat to catch the Olympic spirit on the torch relay route next year. So we look forward to working with VANOC in preparation of this very exciting time. In the past weeks, there have been some notable community events I'd like to bring to your attention. This past Thursday evening, I was happy to attend the Angels Everywhere event at Christ Church. Angels Everywhere is part of our Winter Festival of Lights festivities, and I'd like to thank Elizabeth Manker and the volunteers who organized this spectacular show of children's choirs, reading, Aboriginal drumming, and artwork displays combined in one festive evening. Since its inception last year, this program has provided a wonderful opportunity to share in the spirit of the season with fellow residents. And of course, this Saturday, was a very special evening as it marked our 3rd annual Downtown Candlelight Stroll. This was another wonderful showing of the great Christmas spirit in our community. There were more than 500 people gathered in our downtown to hear and see the spirited holiday displays, the choirs, storytelling, and to pop in on one of the many welcoming art galleries or shops. As well, thank you to the Winter Festival Lights team and the volunteers that put this evening together. It was exciting to see so many people enjoying this event. We have some important events coming up that I'd like to let you know about as well. The Celebrate Old Downtown Ice Rink in front of City Hall, as you know, is unofficially available, and it's set to open officially this Thursday, December 18th. We look forward to people in our community taking advantage of free skating. There's going to be free skating each day from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. Celebrate Old Downtown is taking group bookings as well. You can call them at 905-356-5444 for details. So we hope to see you at the rink. And to all of our residents and our members of council, in closing, I wanted to offer each of you best wishes for a happy, healthy holiday, and may you experience all the joys of Christmas with family and friends. And we certainly look forward to the new year with optimism as we face both the challenges and opportunities that 2009 will be sure to bring. So best wishes for a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas to all. Move on to communications, if we could, and comments of the city clerk. First item is report on the Economic Development Corporation, NDC, for the recommendation, again for the information of council. Pleasure, council. Okay, Councillor Maves moves to receive and file, seconded by Councillor Carrio. Any comments or questions? Councillor Thompson?
Yes, I think this comes as a result of the regional council discussing the issue of economic development, and this is their plan in which to follow through to respond to some of the concerns and comments that have been made in the past. Correct. I believe. Yeah. Okay. The only other thought that I had as I read through all of the issues here was the fact that I've always had a concern with respect to the escalating of the cost of doing economic development at the region. I think it's $2.7 million now, and I think my concern has always been the number of new bodies that have been brought on, the cost of those people at the region, and the lack of accomplishment over the past many years. So I would accept to receive and file a report, but I would like somebody to come back with an indication of the cost escalation over the past 5 years, and also the number of employees as some information, so that we can actually see where the dollars are going and whether we're getting, well, up till now, in my opinion, we have not been getting value for dollars, but hopefully if they follow through with the guidelines that they've outlined here, that may happen. So I hope we can get a report back on that.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. Council will ask for that motion to be dealt with as soon as we deal with this motion on the floor. So any issues with regard to the motion on the floor? Having seen none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, if we could have an indication and a brief report just to indicate the number of employees, the positions that have been established, and the cost and the escalation of cost of that department. We have our Economic Development Department here in the city, which has been really stagnant as far as their budget has been concerned for many, many years. And my objective some time ago was to try to divert some of the funds that are going to the region to support our local Economic Development Department, to give them the opportunity to be more involved and aggressive with respect to economic development. Obviously that didn't happen, and there wasn't any support for that at the region, but at least I'd like to see what kind of dollars we're spending and where they're being spent. I think the objective is to get the best value for our dollar.
Is there a second to that motion? Councillor Ioannoni, second. Any comments or questions of that motion? Having seen none, call the vote. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Move on to item number 2, a memo from the city clerk on the recent denial of applications under the Retail Business Holidays Act at the Regional Council. And yes, please, Councillor Inoue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to congratulate you on trying to make sure that this motion went through at council. I'd kind of like to ask where our Mr. Smeaton and Bob Greenwood were, because I understand there wasn't much comment out of the two of them. But I will say, as I read this report and I went to the petitions of objectors, except for one,
right.
they're all from St. Catharines.
That's right.
So, I mean, we all know how politics works. You get a group of people show up and they object to an issue, and you know, you either sway with it or you don't. But when we talk parochial, you had people from St. Catharines decide whether people in Niagara Falls could make additional money on a statutory holiday, not when it's a want, but a lot of people work that to get additional dollars to go into their household. So I think, you know, we have to go back to regional council and say, listen, I mean, people don't work those extra hours now for the perks. They work those extra hours now to pay their mortgage and feed their kids. So they were on the wrong track there. I understand the objections. A lot of them were based on religious views and people thinking it's, I don't know how it erodes family and causes obesity, as one of them said. But I mean, in this day and age, people work those days because they have to, not necessarily because they want to. So if the motion, I'd like to make a motion, if I understand this, is to take this back to regional council and ask them to reconsider. And I will say, it was based on a phone call from someone who said to me, I can do extras for my family and or just make do by working the holidays. I take the other days off. I take a day off when I get it, but I need the time and a half for double time that it allots me.
Thank you. Appreciate the comment. I have Councillor Carrio, Councillor Wing, and Councillor Thompson.
This angers me more, I think, than it angers Councillor Ioannoni. The message I'd like to give to those people in St. Catharines, mind your own business. We'll mind our business, you mind your business. We don't need them to tell us how to run our businesses. We don't need them to tell us that our businesses can't open on a holiday. People want to work. The people want to work. They're not made to work. Anyway, we're in competition. Our businesses are in competition. Our malls are in competition with the malls in St. Catharines. Our restaurants are in competition. Our golf courses are in competition. We're competing for hospitals. We're competing for a police station. Financial decisions made about our businesses should not be made by people from St. Catharines. I'd also like to thank the mayor for fighting on our behalf for these three businesses. There's also a resolution on tonight's agenda. I'd move the resolution if the time comes. I'd also like to know what we can do, Your Worship, to have this sign-off status by the region removed. How do we get that sign-off status removed so we don't need to get their approval to have things done in the city of Niagara Falls? Anyone answer that question?
Yes, we'll get that question. Mr. Beeman, our city solicitor. Okay.
Well, Your Worship, I don't know how we're going to go about doing that, but considering that this was a blatant misuse of power by the regional government, that maybe St. Catharines councillor on regional government obviously influenced the other councillors to support him, that we somehow should maybe also petition the province to get that sign-off power revoked from the region and let it fall within the municipalities. Yes.
Well, actually, let's just deal with one at a time. But, Councillor, I want to respond to that. There was a motion on the floor to exempt St. Catharines from the Retail Holidays Act, and much like Toronto did with the Toronto Act. I opposed that only because they didn't want to open this can of worms, which I think these others were thinking was going to happen. Those church groups that have attended, we did have a strong lobby of over 100 letters and emails, and there was strong presence there that night. I think this got off in the wrong direction when people thought this was the thin edge of the wedge opening the door. When I pointed out to the regional council that 19 times prior they had approved our application request as a ratification. The clerk has some comments he'd like to make with regard to the process, but I can tell you, just to let you know what the process is going to be, we wanted to have the resolution by council here tonight in your support. I've already approached the regional chair. The clerk and I had discussion with the manager of Value Village, and we're going to ask for a motion of reconsideration. I would like to meet with the regional chair, the regional clerk, along with our clerk, and Mr. Serra, who's the manager of Value Village, early in January, so we can get this matter reconsidered. The matter, I think, has, I think there's been issues that Mr. Serra brings forward. The clerk of the region was not present that night, and he had a certain understanding with her, and he wasn't even entitled to speak because the chair didn't realize that he wanted to address the agenda when the clerk would have acknowledged the fact that he had filed with her that his intent to speak that evening. So I appreciate your support tonight. As a council, I was certainly as infuriated as you were. We are competing. They don't seem to understand that Niagara Falls is a different place where we work when people are on holidays, and that's what we've done all our lives in this community. So I appreciate the comments you have, but there's a number of other speakers. I have Janice Wayne, Wayne Thompson, and Victor Peterangelo, but the clerk would like to make some comments as well.
Well, I mean, you know, when you guys pick on the region, us as staff, we roll our eyes like, oh, here we go again. But I mean, I was as annoyed about this decision as any council member. I mean, this is the region at its most paternalistic. It's just ridiculous that 19 previous applications were signed off because the lower tier municipalities said we don't have a problem with it. If they aren't going to, like, why do they even bother sending it to the lower tier municipality if they're not going to take your opinion into account? I mean, you know, it's just a waste of time. It's ridiculous. And this wasn't an issue about religious holidays. I mean, for the most part, we were talking about holidays that were already approved for a number of other businesses in this community, especially in the Value Village case. He was merely asking for those holidays that are during the summer months, Victoria Day, Canada Day, Labor Day, and Thanksgiving during the tourist season, which have no religious connotation to them whatsoever. So, I mean, you know, and I think there was some fear-mongering that was taking place that, oh my God, they're going to, you know, throw this open so that every municipality in the region has to be open on a stat holiday. That wasn't the case. This is simply a case of 3 Niagara Falls businesses wanting to open on those days. And the fact of the matter is, they probably, if they wouldn't have applied and opened, no one would have been none the wiser, because no one in the regional police, I would ask you, even knows who's legally entitled to open in Niagara Falls on a stat holiday. And I feel especially bad for Tony Serra, because he's the only business amongst the area that can't legally open. He's in a sea surrounded by businesses that can open on a stat holiday. And I mean, you know, you can discount the other 2 decisions related to the AMP and Home Depot, but the one for him was just, you know, ridiculous in my opinion.
Councillor, I know you to that point.
Yeah, but when you look at AMP and Home Depot, they're competing with Sobeys and Foodland and everybody else that's opening. What was most annoying was to read the petitions that, short of bringing the locusts down on our heads to have them exempt for those 3 stores exempt for the holidays, they were St. Catharines people who didn't want to work on that day. So don't work. You've got students off school. You've got university kids trying to raise money to go back the next year. You've got families who need the overtime simply to survive. So if you don't want to work, don't work. I mean, it was as simple as that. To me, I read that and I just could not believe that people who live in St. Catharines were allowed to sway smart-minded people sitting around that table to hurt 3 businesses here. The whole decision was asinine.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense.
And Councillor, to that point, we did have, when the issue came forward the first evening, there was about 3 months that lapsed in between. But the first evening, the AMP manager was present, and he said that they don't force their employees to work. The employees confirmed that. In fact, they pay a premium of about $6,000 for wages that day. And of course, if it wasn't making sense to them, they wouldn't do it. But they obviously, there's a need there, so they're fulfilling that need. And the fact is, I try to convey to the council that many of the holidays aren't even understood by people from other countries. What does a civic holiday in August mean on August 1st to them? So, you know, we have established ourselves as working when people take holidays, and that's what we do here in Niagara Falls. Councillor Wing.
Thank you. And it's not just our council passing this resolution, but the Lundy's Lane BIA has already gone on record asking the region to reconsider the Value Village case. So, you know, Value Village is in an official tourist area. I don't understand why the region would have ever allowed Lundy's Lane to be designated an official tourist area if they didn't think it should be. So it's pretty crazy in that particular case. You know, when I read all this stuff, all these petitions and emails, I had to check and make sure the sky was still up there, that I hadn't fallen in on Niagara Falls, because we're wide open on these holidays that they seem to have an objection to. And, you know, it's not just the businesses that they're hurting. It's the families here as well. If you live in Niagara Falls, chances are you have a family member working in the tourist industry and therefore having the opportunity to work on one of these holidays. If you have 2 spouses, both with a chance to work a holiday, they can add an extra third to their family income. And if one spouse has an opportunity to work and takes it, and the other one doesn't, then they're going to be off on different days. If both have the opportunity to work, then they can have the same day off together at another time and have true family time together. Then you can't have family time when one's working the holiday to get that extra money and the other one doesn't have the opportunity to do that. So I think this was an excellent resolution, very well worded, and I am really happy that we're fighting for these businesses.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Yes, my comment or question was regarding the opting out, and there's a resolution coming on that. But I did have a question through you to the solicitor, Mr. B.
You just stepped out. You want to just hold that for a second, Councillor? We'll get him when he comes back.
Actually, I saw him leave. I just wanted to embarrass him a little bit.
Mr. Beeman?
Regarding the opting out, you said that's a provincial government. Can the regional council pass a resolution to opt out themselves, or is that possible?
I don't believe so. The act itself would have to be ruled.
And that came forward, Councillor. The region had a motion. Yeah, the region had a motion to look at them withdrawing from the Retail Sales Act jurisdiction and legislation, which they had to go to the minister for, and the province would have to legislate that, much like the Toronto Act did the same for Toronto. I have Councillor Peter Angelo next.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that I fully support the idea of passing the power down to municipalities. I think this is part of the frustration that people have with the regional governance model. I know that Councillor Iononi said that it was a bunch of smart people around the table that were making a decision. I mean, yeah, I question whether or not these people have ever visited the area, even if they know where Value Village is, if they know what businesses are around them, and whether or not those businesses are actually open on Sunday, which they all are. So, Your Worship, a few years ago, the actual power or rights to severed lands was passed down from the region to municipalities. I mean, seeing firsthand, because I sit on the C of A committee, that's obviously a much better model. It would make much more sense to pass the power down to us so that we can do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I do have a motion on the floor. Councillor Carey and Councillor Wing. Actually, and I'm just confused with regard to Councillor Iononi.
That's okay. That was the resolution.
Okay. All right.
And then Councillor Carey made one in regards to petitioning the province.
Yeah. Okay, let's deal with the first motion with regard to the resolution. So any questions with regard to that? All those in favor? It's unanimous. And Councillor Carrion?
Yes, as far as petitioning the region or the province to see if we can opt out of having the region control this in our case and in all the other lower tier municipalities, I'd make that motion that we petition.
Now, who do you want us to present that to, the region or to the province?
To the province.
The province, okay.
It's too bad our MPP left.
Yeah. Okay.
In here, so maybe we'd get Kim Crater involved as well.
Okay, moved by Councillor Carrion, seconded by? Councillor Maves. All right, okay, fine. Any discussion further? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Now that we're on a roll, maybe we can make a motion to opt out of the region.
Is there any additional items for Council's consideration this evening, Mr. Clerk?
No, Your Worship.
Okay. Move on to reports if we can. The first report is CAO's report with regard to PD 2008-114, the City of Niagara Falls regulating nightclubs and bars in historic Drummondville area. The pleasure of council. Councillor Wing. Move the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Wing, second by Councillor Peter Angelo. Any discussions or comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Second is the TS 2008-67. It's the supply of 4 city buses. Councillor Peter Angelo.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. And I don't know whether or not all of council had the opportunity to I guess, get a look at the 2009 general purposes budget presentation that Mr. Dulovic was going to make. Unfortunately, you haven't had the, I guess, opportunity to hear him give the presentation before we deal with this report. Your Worship, I know that we have a challenge, as Mr. Dulovic refers to it as, coming up with the budget this year. And I see that, you know, we're being asked to spend almost $1.5 million because we do have some funding coming from the province in regards to these buses. Your Worship, I cannot support the expenditure of new buses at this time. I would rather make it through the challenge that we have ahead of us in regards to the budget, and then look back at the scenario for whether or not we can afford new buses.
You're making a motion, Councillor?
I will make a motion that we defer the purchase of these new buses until after such time that we pass the budget.
There's a second to the motion. Councillor Iononi? Speaking to the motion now?
Well,
Councillor Thompson?
I appreciate we're trying to save money in the budget. It's nice to see that there's some people who want to do this for the first time in the last 3 years, 2 years. But this is coming from gas tax money that has to be spent on transit issues, and the other, what's the other?
Well, it could be, Councillor, I think we should get some qualification. It could be infrastructure and transit as well.
Yeah.
So,
And if we need, if we accept the report and the money that we spent on the transit report previously, I think that, where are you going to spend the money? Are you going to put in another storm sewer, or are you going to try to improve our transit system, which we all agreed to we were going to try to do?
Yeah, Your Worship, if I could just make comment back to the councillor. I don't suggest that he's talking about me in terms of wanting to save money. After all, Wayne, you and I were the only ones that did not support the debenture of all the capital infrastructure.
I was aiming at other people.
we do have a request, a motion on the floor to defer the purchase of these, and so if there's no further discussion, do you want a qualification? Mr. Dren, could you address it, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. What we're asking for is a normal infrastructure renewal. As you can see in the report itself, we have buses dating back to 89 and 90 that are beyond their life. We have issues coming forward, such as where we provide service to the universities and colleges, which are a complete return on our money. It doesn't cost taxpayers. We have an issue that we're unaware of or uncertain of the details yet, but we also have, the GO matter that's coming forward, and we're going to need infrastructure to deal with this. And the infrastructure we have right now, we basically had to take buses off the road in the past month and a half. We've taken 3 buses off the road. We're having trouble meeting the needs out there, and this is the low time of the year. But once the tourism starts, we're going to be faced with that issue. The second issue is that the ordering of buses, our 2008 order is coming January 2009. So we're getting our 2008 at the end of next month. Any delay to this, there is at least a year wait for buses, and it's basically addressing what the consultant brought to council, saying that we're in need of not only changing our service and providing more frequency, but to address our aging infrastructure, which needs to be addressed. Like I said, we have buses that are falling apart today, and we need to address this. And if we don't, we may be in trouble with providing services that the people are expecting out there under our current structure.
Okay, Councillor Pietrangelo and Councillor Ioannoni.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I guess in just a comment to that, and I can really appreciate what our director is saying. However, I just firmly believe that we're all going to have to do with a little bit less, especially in the coming year, Your Worship. And I mean, I guess once we get through the budget presentation, Mr. Doolittle will outline the gap that we need to fill, not only for this year but for many years to come, Your Worship. So it is a deferral in the sense that I'm not denying the purchase of these buses. I'm trying to push it until after the budget so that we can see what situation we're in.
So I understand that. So it's not a deferral of the motion. It's a deferral of the purchase until a later date. Yes, I understand that. So, Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to piggyback on Councillor Pietrangelo's comments, I mean, we all know that we now have to fit our expenditures to meet our revenues. We're not going to meet that clearly in this summary that we're going to get. Yes, we know what the consultant report brought us, but at that point, recession wasn't the front page of the paper, and we weren't struggling to get through a year without taxing the residents who can't afford to pay what they have now. So I understand what we looked at and what we deferred when the consultant brought us, but we're getting hit every day with how bad money is going to be within this council chamber, and we're going to find out, I think, harder on January 15th. So I look at an expenditure like this, it's not a must-have right now. The next one, where we have to spend money to keep our firefighters safe, is a must-have. When you're looking at what you have to get rid of and what you must save, those are one I think we can defer. So
thank you. Councillor May. I'm sorry, Mr. Dren has a comment.
Sorry, just so I can add that, Your Worship, the money that's here is gas tax money used for transit. And that's what this report is saying. It's not saying use any taxpayers' money It's saying use gas tax that's available. The second part of it is the Ontario bus replacement funding, which is given out each year. And you're allotted that each year. And once that $428 or $468,000 is gone, it's gone. And we have to reapply again the following year to get that bus replacement money. So, there is a fear that we could lose that 468 and not get 468 next year, depending on what the province decides that they're going to give as a formula. Right now, they have 33%. In the past, they have cut it back. They've just recently boosted it back up to 33%. But there's no guarantees that's going to happen in 09.
Mr. Dren, do you want to confirm what cost is to the taxpayers in with the purchase of these 4 vehicles, if they're in terms of our assessment?
There would be no impact on the tax-supported budget with the purchase.
Councillor Pietrangelo, then?
Yeah, Your Worship. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, gas tax funding is able to be used for infrastructure in the transit department. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be used for the purchase of new vehicles. We can use it for other infrastructure works in which we transfer funds from the general purposes, which is taxpayers' dollars, into that department. So I really don't agree with that statement. Second of all, Your Worship, there is a special purpose reserve here. We haven't been told how much that is, and I would imagine that that has been taxpayer funded. So I don't understand. Your Worship, in the end, it's all taxpayers' dollars.
Sure, we understand that. Mr. Dren?
With respect to this particular gas tax funding, there's 2 different types of gas tax funding. There's infrastructure gas tax funding, and there's bus program gas tax funding. And what we're speaking about here is the one related to that you have to spend the money on buses, this particular one. The second special purpose reserve was the fall economic statement money that was given in late 2007 that was dedicated totally to transit. So that's what that special purpose reserve is. There's a total of there was a total of $650,000 given to our community for the renewal of transit vehicles. And so therefore, that's what that special purpose reserve money is.
So, Mr. Dren, do you want to confirm that, are you suggesting to this council that there is no impact on the general levy from the purchase of these buses in the city of Niagara Falls? Is that correct?
This is total gas tax.
Total gas tax money that has to be spent on buses?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Pietrangelo, are you aware of that?
Perhaps I can ask the question a different way then. Can we use this money for anything other than the purchase of brand new equipment within the traffic department or within Niagara Transit?
Mr. Dren?
There is a possibility to use it for used equipment. The problem is that there is no accessible used equipment on the market right now because that's what everybody's looking for. We could end up buying high-floor buses, but then we wouldn't meet the accessibility needs. So, could we use this? There's potential we could use part of the $1.4 million, but we would lose the opportunity to take advantage of the $468,000, which is the Ontario bus replacement program, because they're saying you should replace your old buses with new buses, and therefore we're going to give you 33% if you do that.
So that is the only thing that we can use this funding for, is the purchase of new equipment?
Related to transit, yes.
Councillor, does that satisfy your question? I have Councillor Maves and Councillor Thompson.
No, my questions were along the same lines as Councillor Pietrangelo's. And I guess we don't have a choice, Mr. Dren. Excuse me. We don't have a choice. I mean, this is earmarked for bus purchases.
Mr. Dren?
The 468,000. So we pretty much have to buy the bus, as well as the gas tax funding. If you say you can use that for buses or other infrastructure? You have a choice with that?
That's correct. The 1.4 is, that was my response back to Councillor Pietrangelo, that that could be used for transit-related equipment purchases. The Ontario bus replacement funding is only for bus replacement.
If you wanted to revamp to say the wash or something like that,
yes,
couldn't use this money?
You could. 1.4.
Okay. Now, my other question is, what would happen if we just ordered 2 buses? Is that a possibility? Could we use the money, or do they cut this funding too?
Please. Go ahead, Mr. Dren.
with respect to only 2 buses, then the price would go up because that price is based on the purchase of 4 buses. So there's a different price that was quoted in the RFP. So I'd have to look at what that price difference is. So in other words, it would cost us more per bus to buy only 2 buses versus 4.
So your priority use for this money is to buy the buses then?
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank
This
you.
is also, if I could just explain, this is also 2008 funding. We are still going to receive 2009 gas tax funding as committed by the province. So there's going to be another $1.14 million coming in for 09.
Okay, so Councillor, we should be aware of that as well. I have Councillor Thompson, Councillor Wing, and Councillor Ioannoni.
Well, I don't really have anything more to add. I think it's very clear that this is an opportunity to upgrade the bus system. The monies are earmarked for that. It's actually been here for some time. And what else are you going to do with it? If you don't take advantage of it, you lose the $400,000. So I'm all in favor of trying to cut back and be mindful of an appropriate budget for this year. But I don't think this is a report to do it on.
Okay. I have Councillor Wing and Councillor Ioannoni.
What's the motion on the floor right now?
There's a motion to defer the purchase of the vehicles at this time until budget deliberations. Is that correct, Councillor Pietrangelo? Okay.
You know, I can't support that. I'm looking as well to try and cut extraneous expenses, but I don't think this is it. This is our transportation infrastructure, and from what Mr. Dren has said about the condition of our existing buses and the lead time to delivery, I think it's about to become a must-have. You know, I think we really need to go forward with this, and as much as I hate committing to this kind of money, we really don't have a choice, especially if we took the transit report we approved not long ago seriously. So, you know, considering that we're leveraging our money with the Ontario bus replacement funding and the fact that we need to replace this rolling stock, Councillor Ioannoni was pointing out that some of our transit infrastructure is falling down. Well, our transit rolling stock is falling apart, so we've got to do both. I think we need to move forward. I will vote against the motion.
Okay. Councillor Ioannoni? Pardon? Okay. Councillor Pietrangelo?
Yeah, Your Worship, if I can just be totally clear, maybe I'll ask the question in a different way. The $1.4 million, is that not earmarked for infrastructure purchases and transit-related purchases?
Mr. Dren?
The $1.4 million is only transit-related. Well, it could be a bus purchase, it could be a new wash bay purchase, but it has to be transit-related purchases. The one thing, too, is just to make everyone aware, there's no other planned, maybe Todd can explain a little bit further, but there's no other planned cost coming from transit that will impact the capital budget that are tax supported in any way, whether they're debentures or anything that is slated for 09. So what is being proposed is a capital budget that has no impact on the tax supported whatsoever and will not provide any request for debentures for 2009. It will all be tax or gas tax money or some form of reserve that's related to transit.
So I think we understand a little better, Mr. Dren, your explanation. Qualified councillor, does that help?
It does, Your Worship. It does help a lot because, I mean, I guess in my eyes, I see the $1.4 million as being redeployable to other things other than new bus purchases. And I think I just had that confirmed by Mr. Dren. To say that it is not, like, that nothing here is supported by the tax base, I don't believe is entirely true because there are other transit-related expenses that we fund through the general tax system. So, I mean, we could redeploy this $1.4 million if we needed to elsewhere. And I understand that we're going to forego the $468,000 in the province, but that's a renewable grant that you can apply for every year. They haven't taken it off the table for 2009 yet, Your Worship. And I'm not asking that the buses not be purchased. What I'm saying is let's get through the budget first to know whether or not we're going to have enough money for the coming 2009 year. And I'll let my motion stand, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dren, Councillor Pietrangelo is suggesting we still defer this matter till the end of the budget deliberations or into budget deliberations. Is that what you mentioned the impact it would have on our order? Is that an issue with regard to an order? If we talk about a month or so.
Your Worship, we could delay it until after the budget deliberations. My only fear is that what's happening is, looking at the industry, there's a number of other transit operations that are placing orders at the same time, and we've been given notice by the suppliers to say it may be a year and a half, maybe 2 years, if you extend the time that you're going to place it. But we have a window of opportunity right now that allows us. We've contacted the supplier and said, if we place our order, are we going to get it, within a 1 year period? And the answer was yes. After that, they would not commit. So we could place it at any time. My concern is that we have infrastructure that's falling apart. We're going to have additional needs that aren't going to be able to be met unless we have the infrastructure to provide it. So that's my only, but we could delay it.
Okay. Council, any further questions on this matter? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 4 in favor. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. I would not support the. I'll support the motion. I'll wait till the deferral. I'll support the deferral till the end of budget deliberations. Okay. Move on to the next item. At this point, next item is the FS2008-04, the radio system project manager. Pleasure of council. Yes, so, okay, Councillor Ioannoni and Councillor Diodati. Sorry. I'm sorry. I think Councillor Diodati was first. So.
Okay, that's
okay. Councillor, go ahead, please.
Ladies can go first.
Okay, look, I'd just like to move the recommendation. I'm glad to see it's before us. We watched that, I think it's 58-story Hilton going up, and I'd hate to think our firefighters do not have, the most advanced equipment they can so that they're safe and they get them and the guests in our high-rise hotels and the high-rise apartments out here safely and get to go home to their families. So I'd like to move the recommendation, and it's long overdue.
Councillor Diodati, is that?
Your Worship, I'll support the motion.
Are you seconding the motion? Is that what
Yeah, I'll second the motion, but I do have a question for our fire chief. Have we looked into, or will this consultant look into the idea of a shared system with the other emergency services to save on cost?
Chief Smith?
Your Worship, we were involved in the Niagara Voice Radio project that occurred some years ago, and we tried to get together with the other emergency agencies and public works in the region to share in some large system. And after much consultation, a lot of money and time spent, it was decided to not go with the recommendations because everybody had a varied interest in a radio system. As a result, the EMS has gone with a dispatch center, including in their radio system that is really kind of a standalone. The police have their own system, which is a proprietary system, and fire is left basically on their own. Again, St. Catharines, the other municipalities around have an existing system, and basically they're doing what we're doing now, and we're looking at something similar, except that it will be a digital system rather than an analog system.
Okay. Does that answer the question, Councillor?
Yes, it does, Your Worship. It just seems it's too bad that the groups couldn't get together and get a better system, than all independent systems. But nothing we can do about that.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I was going to second the motion, but I was going to say I hope we don't get into trying to deal with other municipalities or other operations, because we did that. I think that was in the late 1990s, and we went on for, 6 years. We accomplished absolutely nothing, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and ended up with absolutely zero out of it. So I would certainly strongly recommend we have our own system. I'm very concerned with what I read in the report. Hopefully we can get on this as quickly as possible. This is, without exception, a high priority in my opinion.
Do you have a motion to move the recommendation on the floor? Any further comments or questions by members of council? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, is there additional items we have on the reports in the handouts? No? Okay, thank you. Move on to ratification of Community Services Committee recommendations. I'm going to call on the chair, Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The ratification of Community Service Committee of December 5th, 2008. The following... That's wrong. The following items are to be ratified from tonight's meeting at the Community Services Committee. The minutes of December 1st, 2008 meeting be approved. Under reports, TS 2008-43, Irwin Crescent Parking Review. that parking be restricted at all times on the west side of Irwin Crescent and around both sides of the turning basin. MW 2008-74, signed bylaw final report that the bylaw appearing on tonight's agenda, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate the placing or erecting of signs, notices, and advertising devices on public property within the city of Niagara Falls, be approved. Under R 2008-38, encroachments and fencing to Patrick Cummings Memorial Sports Complex, that all encroachments on the park land be removed from Patrick Cummings Memorial Sports Complex in accordance with the Parks Bylaw 71-57 as amended, that the installation of fencing at the back of residence properties on the west limit of Patrick Cummings Memorial Sports Complex at an estimated cost of $3,000, that the chain link fencing at the east section of Patrick Cummings Memorial Sports Complex not to be installed, and that staff meet with the residents on arriving at an agreement to maintain the drainage swell and deal with the deadfall. Under new business, that staff prepare a report on the cost of signage for Patrick Cummings Sports Park, and I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Ioannoni, seconded by Councillor Pietrangelo. Any comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Councillor Pietrangelo, the clerk's advising me that we should proceed with your ratification of corporate services and then continue with Mr. Dulevic's report as a council. Is that fair, Mr. Clerk? Is that what you suggest? Mm-hmm. Okay. So at this point, can I ask you to present the ratification of corporate services recommendations to this date?
Absolutely, Your Worship. First item, that the minutes of December 1st, 2008 be adopted as recorded under reports BBS 2008-06, the indexing of building permit fees effective January 1st, 2009. It's recommended that Council approve the increase in building permit fees in accordance with the requirements to Bill 124 by 8% effective January 1st, 2009. Next report, PD 2008-115, dealing with the proposed changes to planning application fees. There was three parts to the recommendation. First, that the proposed increases of the planning application fees, as outlined in Appendix 1, be phased in, with 25% occurring in January 1st, 2009, 25% January 1 to 10, 25% January 1 to 11, and the remaining 25% January 1 to 12. Second part of the recommendation, commencing in 210, staff will report annually to Council on any further changes required to the planning application fees. And lastly, that a notice be placed in legal newspapers informing the public of the change in fees for planning applications. Third item, Your Worship, BDD 2008-04, dealing with the OPG Marketing Fund. It's recommended that Council allocate the $80,000 interest accrued from the OPG Marketing Fund account as follows. First, $15,000 towards the December 2009 Olympic torch celebration. Secondly, $10,000 toward the Boundary Waters Treaty 100-year celebration. Thirdly, $55,000 toward the New Year's Eve television broadcast to be spent in 09 and 010. Last item, Your Worship, CD 2008-14. It was recommended that Celebrate Old Downtown submit a master plan for events for 2009. Secondly, that the funding request by Dr. Lococo be received and filed. And thirdly, that staff review the community improvement plan application procedures, and I would so move the minutes, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded by Councillor Diodati as well. Any comments or questions further? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask at this time Mr. Dulevic to make his presentation with regard to the budget comparables he has here. Mr. Dulevic.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to go over a presentation tonight on the 2009 budget and how we got here tonight. We're going to talk about the budget development, a little review of the previous information that's been provided to this council, the challenge, as I like to call it, and it is a challenge that staff is bringing forward to council, information to consider, and as well the next steps. As you may recall, back on September 22nd, 2008, council approved report F 2008-38, dealing with the budget schedule. It provided scheduled meetings, deputations, and workshops that were to be held. We're currently 2 weeks behind on the general purpose budget schedule. This is your first presentation of the total package, and you will be getting your binders tonight to have a look at. This is not for working out, it's for having a look at, but it's pretty hefty. We are behind on the utility budget. That is impacted by the region of Niagara. The region has recently retained the consultant BMA to review the method in which they charge area municipalities for water and waste. There are significant changes being recommended by the consultant that will have an impact on how
the city deals with its utility budget. Once these proposed changes are presented to Regional Council, staff will be reporting back to this council as to what the impact is and what our recommendations will be in moving forward. Also in that finance report, September 22nd, staff did ask the question to council, do you wish to continue to maintain the existing levels of service? And based on that question, and what's gone on previous years, city staff have proceeded to develop the 2009 budget on the premise that there would be no cuts to service. So that's how we move forward. On October 3rd, 2008, the directors submitted their budgets, following which myself and Ken Burden met with each of the directors to get a better understanding of what they contained in their budgets and what they were looking for 2009. Next slide, Dean. As a result of the review, there were a number of cuts that had to be made because the expenditures were quite high and we realized it was not something that could be forwarded on council. One of the first areas that we made cuts to were capital funding. Although staff indicated that additional funds were needed to address the infrastructure deficit, funding requests were reduced to levels that were provided for in the 2008 budget. Additional staffing was also requested from various departments in order to address increasing workload and service needs. What I'm thinking about is in the tree area. I know from what I've seen in their claims coming through, we're seeing more and more claims in the tree area because of branches falling off to homes and vehicles. And that, again, is because of the backlog, and we simply haven't increased that complement since the 70s. As a result, in those areas where the request had an impact on the budget, the staffing requests were denied. The departments that made the requests were Transportation, Municipal Works, Parks, Recreation, Culture, Planning, Information Systems, Clerks, and Finance. So there's quite a few departments that were looking for additional staff to deal with issues before them. Seven of them. 7 departments. Yeah, that was the request that they made. We also had specific capital program reductions. They were in the area of the replacement of the election equipment and as well the doctor recruitment program. It's because they had sufficient reserves to carry out what they needed to in 2009. Contribution to reserve, as per policy, as council may recall, September of 2007, council approved a policy with respect to increasing our reserves. The finance department did include some funding for the proposed 2009 budget to replenish these reserves and build them up. They were to cover such areas as facilities, equipment, stabilization funds for tax purposes. That too was removed from the budget. As council may recall, they forwarded on the Main Street EA request. That $70,000 didn't survive and it was not included. And finally, in the past, we have a computer replacement program where we replace some of our equipment on a yearly basis. That $150,000 expenditure was moved from the budget, so defer the program for a year and hopefully be able to reestablish it in 2010. Next slide, Dean, thank you. As a result, revised budget was submitted by the directors on October 31st, 2008 with the reductions that were made as a result of the meetings that were held over those several weeks. On October 3rd and 17th, November 3rd and 17th, presentations were made by the various agencies, boards, and commissions. You'll be able to find that in your binders. I just note down, it's on tab 2 in the budget binder. And that's the details, and the summary of that is found under tab 1 labeled Schedule D. I should mention that all the requests as submitted by those agency boards and commissions have been included in the budget as requested. The overall increase in that area is approximately $480,000 and is being mainly driven by the request of Niagara Falls Tourism, $200,000 increase over 2008, and a new request from the Downtown Board of $100,000 for events. And I think that goes to Councillor Wing's concern about using CIP money. They have made a specific request of $100,000 in this budget to hold events. That is in the budget right now. Starting in late October and up to December 1st, 2008 council meeting, various presentations were made by staff and workshops held. The workshops dealt with the Public Sector Accounting Board accounting changes and the impact that they would have on future city budgets, and the Development Charges Bylaw, which is up for renewal in early 2009. On November 17th and December 1st, staff made presentations on issues impacting revenue and expenses, respectively. And now I'm just going to give you a little overview on the revenues that was discussed. When we first presented the revenue picture, we indicated that we were going to see a $284,000 increase in new tax revenue from new development. However, finance staff recently has been provided with more up-to-date information on the tax rolls, and as a result, taxation revenue due to increased growth is now $432,000. So we got some good news there on the revenue side. As discussed previously, we had a loss of sales of $731,000. The bulk of that is a result of the loss of candidate coach at Transit as a customer. Although staff has made considerable efforts to solicit new business, it has proven to be difficult to replace such a large customer. City staff has kept the lines of communication open with Coach Canada in the event they wish to use city services in the future. Again, no surprise, investment income is declining because of the declining interest rates. I'm sure you're all seeing that with any money that you may have in your savings account as they keep declining those rates unless you've locked them in a while ago with the GIC. And finally, there is a decrease in the transfer of reserves. Approximately $4.2 million. The biggest one there is the $2.5 million surplus that the city enjoyed from 2007 going into 2008. And just on that $2.5 million surplus, over $2 million of that was a result of supplemental tax bills that went out. That was revenues that we weren't counting on in 2007 that arrived in 2007. One of the big ticket items was the Great Wolf Lodge. They finally MPAC finally dealt with them, and they finally issued a tax bill. And I think they were considered, I think, maybe $1.5 million, $1.6 million of the over $2 million in tax supplemental bills that we received was from the Great Wolf Lodge itself. So that's where we generated surplus. It wasn't as a result of not spending. It's just that we had an enhanced revenue from a source we didn't anticipate. The other reduction has to do with $1.2 million in gas tax funding, but this is more of an accounting issue. What we were doing in the past was taking money that we were getting from the federal government that is earmarked for infrastructure spending. That's what you have to spend it on. We were putting it into operating, and then we were expensing it out of operating. What finance has now suggested that this money be placed directly into the capital budget. So you'll see later on as we go through the slides, you'll see a corresponding reduction on the transfers out of reserves. Next, Dean. Okay, increase in transfer to reserves. When we first talked about this, what's greatly impacting this is the casino appeal. And when Mr. Harrison first presented this information to council, we were anticipating that appeal would cost us $1 million. As council is aware, as a result of new numbers from MPAC, that figure may be up to $1.7 million to deal with that tax appeal that was launched by OLG. But when you look at it, you'll note that there's only a $1.17 million overall increase to transfer the reserves, into reserves, and that's because we've made other cuts to try to keep that impact on the casino appeal down. Increase in labor employee benefits. Council's aware we've settled with CUPE. We have a 3% increase for them for 2009. We are also dealing with hiring additional probationary firefighters to maintain our staffing levels. And as well, because of issues dealing with the firefighters retiring throughout the year, we need additional dollars in our overtime budget to ensure that we maintain the proper staffing levels as recommended by the chief. Decreases in capital transfer, again, that has to deal with the bulk of that is the $1.2 million in gas tax that I talked about previously, so that was an in-out on that, so they've canceled each other out. Contracted services. The increases there are mainly due to the Niagara Specialized Transit, which has gone from $55,000 in 2008 to an estimated $253,000 for 2009. This change is a result of the provincial funding that is being provided to the region is being applied to the service. Previously, the funds from the province were allocated against operating, but the region has determined that this money should be used for capital. The majority of Niagara Falls residents using this service is for medical appointments in St. Catharines, in particular the use of dialysis equipment. Staff is investigating whether the city can opt out of this program altogether. That may be difficult as a number of years ago, regional staff came here to make a pitch for us to get involved with specialized transit, and they did receive a triple majority to provide that service. So we're looking either to opt out altogether, or we're looking at other options to provide this service more cost effectively. Because if you look at the $253,000 that they're talking about, that's almost $90 per trip to take someone from Niagara Falls to St. Catharines. In most cases, it's to the hospital there to deal with dialysis. So we're looking if there's a more cost-effective way of providing us that service. The other impact is waste management. The cost of the city will be going up approximately $600,000. This is both as a result of increased costs of operating and as well as not having reserves available to deal with that expense. There will be a detailed report on this issue coming to Council early in the new year in order to confirm the level of service that Council wishes to provide. Currently, we have bought additional services above the base level that's being provided by the region. Some of the things that we talk about, we do provide bin service to a number of our multi-res properties. Other municipalities aren't doing that. The multi-res properties have to contract that out on their own. We are also doing bin pickup in our tourist core. So there will be a detailed report from Municipal Works staff on that to ascertain how Council wants to proceed, because the contract is coming up and the region has to retender the contract. So they're looking to the city to confirm, do you want to continue with this enhanced level of service that you've had over the past number of years? Next slide, Dean. Okay, the challenge. Although there wasn't a direct motion on this, there was some discussion in previous council meetings where the direction was given not to use the reassessment increase. As council may be aware, when there was a presentation on MPAC to talk about how they're going to phase in over 4 years the new reevaluation. And as I said, no motion was made. Council, it was pretty clear from staff's perspective that council didn't want to use this. As a matter of fact, so what will have to happen is we'll have to actually bring the tax rate slightly down in order to offset that reassessment increase. Another factor that's in play is current economic conditions. We've heard that tonight. And everything I know Ken and I have been reading, I think this is going to be not just next year's problem. I think we're going to have some issues for the next couple of years that we're going to have to deal with in regards to the economy. Putting that all together and speaking with several councillors one-on-one, I'm hearing 0% tax increase. It's not just 0, it's actually a decrease in the tax rate because of not wanting to use the reassessment increase. Dean, next slide, please. So what's this all mean? This will be in your budget binders. When you put it all together, with the loss in revenues and the increase in expenses, we're talking about an $8.8 million challenge. And I want to make it clear, staff's not suggesting or recommending that we have a tax increase. What we really have to deal with here is on the expense side. Just the discussions that took place tonight just on the planning fees. I think it'd be very difficult to find additional revenue sources. If you don't go the tax way, you're going to be looking at either new fees or increasing fees. And I think that may not be popular also. So what staff has talked about, and we're going to have to focus in on the expense side. How can we bring that $8.8 million? How can we deal with that $8.8 million challenge? Next slide, Dean. So, considerations or options. What are the things that you can think about? You're well aware of the $3.9 million from the province for infrastructure, one-time funding that we received from them as a result of the Ontario Savings Act and the surplus that they had for the 2007/2008 fiscal year. That can be used. That has to be used for infrastructure. They didn't say that you had to take your existing infrastructure program and add to it. They just said it had to be used on infrastructure. So that money is available. Just to note, we don't anticipate, we don't anticipate another surplus for the province for the 2008-2009 fiscal budget, so we're not anticipating an additional or $3.9 million from the province from this program for next year. We do have the $5.8 million sitting in reserve from the land sale, corner of Montrose and McLeod Road. As you recall, originally this was earmarked for downtown. However, council then said, no, let's just put it in reserve, and it's sitting there awaiting council's direction on what to do with it. Other things to think about: core responsibilities versus discretionary spending. Next slide, Dean. Talk a little bit about things like grant funding. You know, think about such soft services as beautification, Communities in Bloom, doctor recruitment program. Not saying that they cut, but those are issues that, you know, are they core, are they discretionary? There's a number of things that council can look at. We've got the funding that we provide to agencies, board and commissions, GNGH, various programs. Not that I don't want to mention any programs and say I'm attacking them. There's a lot of good programs out there, but I think council needs to look at, in this era of belt tightening, what is a priority and what can we put off. Infrastructure investment. This council has been very aggressive, as well as previous council, in addressing our infrastructure deficit. For example, from 2007 to 2008, we went from about a $350,000 funding level from storm sewers up to $1 million. That was a significant increase. Can we afford to continue on with that? Do we pull back the reins on our infrastructure investment over the next 2-3 years until we get out of until the economy improves? Sorry, I just missed something on the grant funding. Other areas to consider are the CIPs. I know there's been a lot of discussion tonight on that. Collectively, for the historic Drummondville, citywide, and downtown, we provide $930,000 in funding for the CIPs. Of that $930,000, $185,000 is for the citywide CIP. To date, I think we've only used about $8,000 of that money. Again, that could be an area that council may wish to consider to cut, not just maybe all the CIPs. They may want to pull back the reins on that. Next, that will be included in your package is future budgets. This is, Dean, if you could just move on, next slide, please. And what this is, it's a trend analysis, and this is kind of looking back to 2007 and going forward to 2011. And like I said, it really is a trend analysis, and it's based on what we know today. Well, actually, no, it was late last week, so things have changed today already because of the phasing in of the planning fees. There was a slight decrease in some of those revenues, but actually quite slight, very slight. But this is what, going forward from today, based on information today, this is what we see happening. As you can see right here, back in 2011, we're going from $4.65 to $9.1 million in debt servicing. One of the big items coming on stream there is Fort Pat Arena. The rest of it is based on our capital program as approved in 2008. One of the decisions that council may want to consider is, do we go back to a pay-as-you-go philosophy on our capital program? That's something staff needs to know early on as we develop our capital program. The earlier we know that, the better, because that'll affect our spending plans for the next 5 years. If council says, no, we're going pay-as-you-go, it'll have a significant impact on the projects that we can do. Once again, I think what we need to do is focus in on this half here, the expenses. Again, going forward on the revenues, we show some assessment growth due to new growth with the Hilton coming on stream in the future and other developments. We don't anticipate it'll stop completely, but there definitely will be a slowdown. So some assessment. We don't show, once again, we're not taking into account the reassessment increases as they get phased in. That's not included here. That's included in here. So really, this is just some information. I think what council decides, be it today or the next couple of months, will have an impact on this bottom line. Although we're not expecting you to solve 2010-2011 budget today over the next few months, I think it's something that council needs to keep in mind when they make decisions on the spending side. What does it mean? Do we start looking at reductions in spending this year and phase it in over the next several years to try to, once again, get that number down? But what I can tell you right now, that when we'll go into the 2010 budget, this will look completely different. because there'll be new information, there may be new programs out there. We just don't know what they are yet. But it's just brief. Okay, what's next? The next budget meeting is planned for January 19th, 2009. You'll get your budget binders tonight. You also get that trend analysis that we talked about. Okay, we are getting the budget binders tonight, so you'll get all that information. You have all the detail sheets in there. Once again, we're not looking for any decisions from council tonight. Just want to draw your attention to what the challenges are, some things to consider as you go through it. As you go through the budget, please contact myself or Ken or any of the directors to get clarification. As you look at the budget over the next several weeks, staff is preparing a priority chart as requested, where we're going to have high, medium, and low priorities on the operating expenditure side. That our goal is so that you'll have that information before the January 19th meeting as you're going over the budget to look at how we categorize some of these projects. This time, in closing, I just say there's been considerable work to date and a considerable amount of work, and there is a considerable amount of work to do. Staff now look to council to provide direction on how to proceed. So the ball is in your court right now. And, we're looking for direction how you want us to go forward.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dulevic. And members of council, I just got some comments further to Mr. Dulevic's comments, and in view of the recent developments at both the federal and provincial level, and with regard to the challenges that lie ahead in our economy and the current downturn of events in the market in Canada and around the globe, we as members of council have to really lead the charge to promote fiscal responsibility in our own community. And we must take the significant steps to ensure that the City of Niagara Falls remains competitive, continues to be a sound place to invest in affordable community for the families that they call home. These are exceptional times, and we have to call for exceptional measures, and we must set an example. It must begin with ourselves, and I'd like to entertain a motion to freeze salaries at City Hall for the mayor and members of council, and for all senior management staff employed by the city. This would be level 15 and above, with about 12 senior staff. This would mean postponing any salary adjustments for 2009 until final budget deliberations, and this would not include all other city employees. We know that the residents of Niagara are at their limit, and we need to ensure that the people of our community have ample resources to make it through the current recession and are able to support their families and continue to run their businesses that make this community tick. And I would also propose that members of council fight to ensure a zero tax increase from the reassessment of property values in Niagara Falls residents in 2009. So I do would hope that you would consider, and I'd entertain a motion to do just as I suggested. There's anybody who's prepared to move that motion? Councillor? Okay, Councillor Diodati and Councillor Carrio, I guess, fine. Councillor Carrio, wish to speak?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we have no choice in the circumstances, Your Worship. As we look at those charts showing an $8 million we have to find this year, the next year $11 million, and the year after that $16 million. I think we have no choice, Your Worship, but to lead by example. I certainly appreciate that the senior staff would do this. I'm certainly willing to do it, and I'm sure all the other councillors are willing to do it. And I think we're going to have to make some tough decisions, which won't be accepted graciously by some, but I think we have to do it. We're in tough times, and we have to make tough decisions, Your Worship, and I'll certainly support that motion.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Yes, Councillor Pietrangelo.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. In the past couple of months, I know that I've said a few times that we're not going to be everything to everyone, and there's going to be people that we're going to have to tell that we can't give them money this year, and there's going to be other parts of the budget that we're going to have to cut out. I think it's more than appropriate to lead by example. I can't see us taking a salary increase and telling people that we can't fund them. So
I agree. I think that's certainly no question. Councillor Diodati.
Yes, Your Worship, and it was Councillor Carrill that first brought this up, and suggested in the past, and we all thought it was a great idea. I mean, we know what's going on, we know the environment right now with the economy, and I think it shows a lot of willingness to do what we need to do to get through the tough times, because the tough times will pass, and then when they do, we can all benefit. But in the meantime, we all have to tighten our belts. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. I appreciate the comment. Thank you. Any questions or comments further? Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm certainly going to support the motion because, I mean, if we're going to point fingers, we have to point it at us first. But when we go to the the budget then, and contracted positions are there, are we going to have an opportunity to re-debate those? I missed the debate around the council table where you hired our former CAO at close to $600 a day for 1 day a week work, for work that our staff here and yourself and Councillor Thompson, who sit on the People Mover Committee, can do. So I want to make sure that we're going to have the opportunity to debate that again, because I have no problem with talking about exceptional times and exceptional measures if we're going to look at the excess that you hired again back there. You have close to $500,000 between senior staff, yourself, and Councillor Thompson. Decades of experience sitting here having started that, and I think those are costs that we have to take a look at too. So I'm happy supporting this motion if we can take a look at those contracted positions again.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would be included, Councillor, with all respect. That was a matter this council dealt with on a couple occasions, and I'm not sure if it's a pleasure of council. You can discuss that further.
To that point,
yes.
Is it in our budget? Are the costs in our budget?
Yes, through your worship.
So we can debate
They
it.
are in the budget, and everything is open to debate.
Okay, then that's fine, and we'll do that another time. But don't tell me I can't debate something
No,
that's
I'm
sitting
just
in our
saying,
budget.
this council has dealt with this matter twice in the last
And it's in our
month.
budget.
Well, I guess it is now.
Well,
It's
I don't.
obviously
You know what? I don't mind. But if you're going to make a sanctimonious speech there, talking about exceptional times and making exceptional measures, then we got to be able to look at every cent in this budget. So I don't have a
Councillor,
problem with that.
Certainly, we'll have a chance. We can debate the merits of that retention and the costs that are at stake. So that's an opinion. Yes, Councillor Carrion.
Worship, I have another question. Has the letter gone out that the council asked to the boards and agencies? Has that gone out yet? Okay.
Mr. Burden? Yeah, it was out a while ago. Okay. Councillor Wing?
You know, in light of Councillor Iannone's comments, I'm wondering if we're being premature with this. Maybe we better hold off and do it along with the rest of, it's fine to want to lead by example in that, but unless we're prepared to really get tough next year, why get tough now? Like, let's do it all at once. We'll get tough on ourselves the same time we get tough on all the other extraneous expenditures. Because to tell you the truth, I don't think this is, what we're talking about cutting around this table is really very much. Your salary is more significant than those of us who sit in these seats, but, it's probably less than we're going to be paying our former CAO just for a day's work. I think we really need to be able to be ready to really pull out the scissors in January, but I'm just not sure that this is the time to start. I think it's going to be much more effective if we wait, so I'll make a motion that we defer this.
Well, the motion is to deal with this at the budget deliberations.
Oh, is it?
That's what it says.
That's fine then. Okay,
No,
that's just
that's what it says. No. Okay, Councillor Diodati.
And I want to address, it's a good point. I mean, this is not a lot of money we're talking about here, but I think the point is, it's ceremonial and it's symbolic. It's like turning the sod at an event. It more represents the direction of the council.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Mr. Dulwick wants to speak to this as well.
Yeah, just for the motion of the clarification, it is just a freeze, and with respect to the senior staff, you're talking about $63,000 in savings by freezing it if it was frozen for the whole year. But we need this motion to pass tonight because January 1st is the automatic increase, or the increase that would happen with senior staff. So we would hope, if that's the will of council, that they pass that tonight. It's a lot easier to stop someone from getting something before they get it, as opposed to, okay, you got it for 1 day, now you're not getting it. So.
Yeah. So I think that's important. That clarifies it. So yes, Councillor Carrion.
If Councillor Wing is suggesting a further rollback of council's wages, I'd entertain that as well. If you suggest that that might not be enough and have enough of an impact, if you'd like to make a motion to cut us back further, I'd entertain that as well.
Maybe we should go by the amount of work that is done by individual councillors. That would be a good way of doing it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd get an increase. Councillor Wing.
In that case, my salary would double. That would be a great way to approach it. The one caution I do have...
Councillor Carrion will get his email.
The one caution I do have is let's not make the same mistake that a council prior to my coming in the late 90s made. I remember when I first landed on council in late 97, I hadn't even been sworn in, and I had another member of council saying, come on, we're going to get ourselves a little raise, you just play along with it. And you know, council had frozen their wages for a number of years, and all of a sudden there was people determined to play catch-up, and there was a big 22% pay hike, which did not sit well with the taxpayers, as it should not have. And as a result of that, I remember seconding the motion that Alderman Volpatti made, that from then on it would be linked to what the QP wage increase was, which wasn't perfect. I mean, much better is to link it to something totally arm's length, like the consumer price index, like some sort of inflationary thing that's totally independent from us. But that's why we go with the automatic rate increase each year, so we don't end up in that situation again. So I'm just cautioning the council, let's not end up back in that boat that led to all that turmoil in the late 1990s.
Well, councillors, this means if you approve this tonight, it's a 1.5% increase for 2008 and a 1.5% increase for 2009, which is following the guidelines. Council received a 3% increase just recently on a top-up, and if you take that and freeze it and you take it to the end of 2009, it represents basically 1.5% for each year, which is right in line with what the federal and provincial governments are talking about. Councillor Peter Angelo.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if you're going to call the motion and
Yes.
whether or not it's been amended to begin on January 1st, 2000.
No, it hasn't been amended, so Councillor, would you wish to make that, Councillor Diodati? And Councillor Carrio? Okay, thank you. That's amended. So we'll call the vote. All those in favor? The motion is that the wages for the mayor and council, sorry, the increase in the, sorry, let me just clarify this. It means that we will postpone the freeze salaries for the City Hall for the mayor and members of council and for all senior management staff employed by the city, that's level 15 and above. This means we'll propose the postponing of salary adjustments for 2009 and it'll take effect January 1st. So it means that we're talking a 1.5% increase over 2 years. That's essentially what we're talking about. Okay? We'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, members of council. Move on to ratification of in-camera committee recommendations. I'm going to call on the clerk to do the same, please.
Recommendation from earlier this evening that council approve ratification of the amended collective agreement between the Corporation of the City of Niagara Falls and the Amalgamated Transit Union and its Local 1582 from July 1st, 2008 to December 31st, 2009 by passing the bylaw appearing later on tonight's agenda.
Moved by Councillor Peter Angelo, seconded by Councillor Diodati. Again, you've heard the motion. Any comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Members of council, move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items? Moved by Councillor Carrier, seconded by Councillor Peter Angelo. Any comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Resolutions, members of council. Mr. Clerk, we've dealt with this resolution?
Yeah, we dealt with it.
Okay, so this has been dealt with already, as you heard earlier. And at this time, I entertain a motion to give the bylaws and the bylaws you given a first reading. Moved by Councillor Fisher, seconded by Councillor Peter Angelo. Again, you've heard the motion. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Bylaws 2008-216 to 2008-226 read a first time.
A motion to give the bylaws a second and third reading. Moved by Councillor Peter Angelo, seconded by Councillor Carrio. Once again, you've heard the motion. Any further questions or comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Bylaws 2008-216 to 2008-226 read a second and third time and passed.
Thank you. Any new business this evening from members of council? Councillor Wing, Councillor Iannone. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay, I have two items. The first one is I'd like to ask for a report, I guess it would be interdepartmental, on the impacts of condominium conversions. This would include, but not be limited to, the financial impact on the municipality and also alternative approaches to how we allow these. This is, as per the information I forwarded to staff and council on the weekends.
Would you like that from planning?
I think it would have to be interdepartmental, planning, legal, finance, but so basically a corporate report on the impacts and
Yes, okay.
alternatives.
Yes, and?
That's, I'll make that a motion.
Motion by Councillor Wing, seconded by Councillor Iannone. Any discussion or comments to that motion? Having seen none, all those in favor, please hold your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Wing.
And the other one is, I might be a little untimely here. I should have raised this. I forgot at the time. When we considered the report on regulating nightclubs and bars in the historic Drummondville area, there was a section in the report where it discussed how the city defines nightclubs as greater than 499 persons. If council wishes, a lower occupancy level could be established to differentiate between nightclubs and smaller establishments. These should apply consistently across the municipality. Could staff expand on this in the report that's coming back on January 26th? I'd like us to take a look at this, and I can't speak yet because the BIA hasn't discussed it, the Main Affairs BIA, but I can see them being in support of that as well.
You so move?
Yes, I so
Seconded by Councillor Ioannoni once again. Any further comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we want to get out of here, so I'll be brief. I just want to give Council an update of the ad hoc committee's meeting with the LIN chair and the CAO of the LIN last week. I know there was a brief update in the paper, and I just want to say we learned on Tuesday that she would meet with us Wednesday. I was very fortunate that we were very fortunate that 5 of our committee came out: Councillor Thompson, Janie Palmer, Bob Gale, myself, and Dr. Deck. And it was just too quick for the others. Councillor Diodati was out of town. He emailed his comments that we raised with her. And I want to say that we didn't like the answers that we were given. We asked many questions, and while we didn't like the answers given, I have to say, collectively, the group as a whole left very impressed with Juanita Gledhill. She is... she's a tough chair, and I'm telling you, they found the right person for that job, because it's got to be a thankless one. I have to say, we covered many things within our meeting. The first thing she asked us was, do you have anything new? And we said, well, yeah, the public hasn't had an opportunity to discuss Dr. Kitt's reports and the recommendations in there. We covered specifically dealing with maternity and pediatrics. We highlighted many things. The Ontario Health Coalition had released a discussion paper that highlighted that Dr. Kitt's recommendations weren't in line with long-term care and health plan, and the fact of the municipality the size that we are having the need to have maternity and pediatrics. We discussed with her the lack of transportation costs highlighted in Dr. Kitt's report, and we also highlighted that their own expert consultant, as great a guy as he is having his decisions for small hospitals in Ottawa overturned because financially they were not achieving the results that he thought they would in Ottawa. We highlighted the fact that that plan does not have intermunicipal transportation dollars, and we're going to have to go to the same taxpayer. We're saying we won't tax here. We talked about, and actually Mr. Gale highlighted to Ms. Gledhill that he will not be donating to the GNGH Foundation if there was no guarantee that those monies were staying in Niagara Falls, and that a sober second look wasn't being looked at. And I highlight that because we got a letter tonight from the chair of the GNGH Foundation not liking that comment I made in the review. And I just want to say to council, I was asked what was discussed, and short of lying, I went point by point with the review on the matters that we discussed. I highlighted Mr. Baer's letter to Bob Gale, and he's going to respond that it was his comments. He had no problem highlighting that. You know, we didn't leave there. There was nothing positive came out of that meeting other than to say that she granted us the opportunity to speak to her. She flat out told us, which we left very confused, that the Premier and the Minister of Health do not have the authority to change that location. So we asked her, if you don't have the authority, and the Premier doesn't have the authority, and the Minister of Health doesn't have the authority, who actually has the authority to change the location? We didn't get an answer. So I can't make up one. She didn't have one for us. We highlighted, we were read the NHS playbook answer that if we question the site location, we'll go back in the queue and not get another hospital for 25 years. And someone around the table said, so they will spend $1 billion on a bad location instead of taking a sober second look and maybe finding a better location that we could start a building in 5 months. And basically the answer was yes. If you continue to question and the province moves the location, you're going back in the queue. It'll be 25 years. That didn't make sense to us either, because if you're going to find a more central location in regards to $1 billion and funding from the residents here, we thought it warranted a sober second look. And I will just say, to close off, we gave it our best shot. we tried everything we could. We threw every argument that the residents have given us, that this council has given us, that the Ontario Health Coalition has given us. And I want to highlight to both council and the residents that Niagara this week had an article by Paul Forsyth this week talking about a reduction in ambulance service. And anybody who was at that public meeting at Kingston College heard that that has to be increased, not decreased. So we're already going in a backwards direction. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to our representative, I can't remember who it is, on the Regional Transportation Committee, there was an article in the Review that talked about how this was almost slow to backwards in moving forward. Maybe somebody can give us an update on that also, because we highlighted that to her. I think there was an editorial in one of the local papers that said you need to really, this needs to be acted on now, not having their feet dragged. And we kind of like to know where that sits on that too. So just through you to the residents, we gave every argument that was given to us in every sector. You said we've talked to everybody. Yes, we have. And we threw those questions from everybody who's thrown them at us at her. We allowed Dr. Deck to open the meeting and speak on a doctor's perspective. And I have to say, if we're looking at one hospital for the next 25 years or my lifetime, this wasn't positive for us. But she heard us. She took copious notes. So did we. We asked the questions we didn't like, and she was very blunt with us and said, you aren't going to like my answers, but I will tell you the truth. And we didn't like her answers, but all we can say is it was a very blunt, very open roundtable discussion. And you know, we didn't come out of there feeling as great as we'd have liked to going in, but she heard our concerns. And I will say, while I was skeptic that the LHIN was getting all the information provided to them, because the relationship between us and the NHS hasn't been that great over the last few years, she knew almost everything. So if it put to rest anything in my mind, it was that the flow of information to the LHIN is getting there, and that LHIN board has as many questions on that HIP plan as we do. And that was reassuring to leave with. But I wanted council to get that update.
Well, thank you for the update, Councillor, and I'm pleased that you had the opportunity, as we asked, that be done, that the ad hoc committee be listened to, and I'm sorry that was the schedule she arranged at the request. The clerk was working on that, and also I'm going to be attending the meeting tomorrow. If anybody else is joining, that's fine. Councillor Diodati did attend the last LHIN meeting, and tomorrow they're having further debates. I'm sure it'll be 3 or 4 hours of those questions coming forward. As you heard that day, Councillor Diodati was there, that one of the members has probably 100 questions that he wanted to ask, so I'm sure that they'll be covering the concerns that this council has expressed as well. So I appreciate your update. Councillor Thompson.
Well, I just want to give my impression of the meeting. I think that I was extremely impressed with the chair, and she was, without exception, the best individual that they could have picked for that particular job and difficult responsibility. She was extremely firm, and after you came out of the meeting, there was no doubt about where we stand with respect to the complete hospital issue. The site, without exception, when the debate and discussion, well, there was no debate, discussion began, she very quickly said that that is off the table, and there is no debate with respect to that. The site is there and will not change. We tried to diplomatically indicate that if that was completely lost to us, could we fall back to the maternity and obstetrics in Niagara Falls, and just as quickly we were told that is definitely out of the picture and will not be reconsidered. Everything from transportation to all the other issues that we discussed were a total and complete negative. I don't think we have any chance of any serious consideration with respect to this issue after that meeting. And, you know, anybody who thought that Dr. Kitts was coming down here to think about health care for the city of Niagara Falls or for our residents, it's a total loss. And I was extremely, I was satisfied with the responses, but we got absolutely nowhere or no consideration with respect to any of our requests with respect to the NHS, and I wouldn't expect any coming. And I wouldn't expect any coming for Fort Erie or Port Colborne either. They were just as firm, the responses. So I think we have a serious problem with our health care in the city of Niagara Falls.
Any other comments?
Just to that point, Councillor Diodati just made a point. Have we got a response from Minister Bradley in regards to us meeting with him?
No, we haven't.
Nothing yet. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You shouldn't rush.
Okay. Anything else further? Yes. Motion adjourned by Councillor Carey, second by Councillor Maves. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, everybody.